listening to Coffee and Conversation with Recovery Advocate Network, the nonprofit organization that strives to address the staggering disparity in resource availability for individuals suffering from mental health disorders, processing disorders, addictions, trauma healing, and sexual identity challenges. Together, we strive to end the stigma associated with these challenges so that true healing can begin. Welcome back to Coffee and Conversations Between the Lines blog club series. This is episode number 54, where actress Sherilyn Fenn will read Joshua Young's blog post entitled Destigmatizing Mental Illness. Sherilyn has been acting since the mid-1980s, but her rise to fame came in 1990 when she was cast to play the role of Audrey Horne, the high school femme fatale in the critically acclaimed TV series Twin Peaks. In that same year, she was chosen by U.S. Magazine as one of the 10 most beautiful women in the world. After her memorable role on Twin Peaks, Sherilyn then made her mark on the big screen, starring in several high-profile movies such as Of Mice and Men and Boxing Helena, to name a few. And, of course, her outstanding performance playing Elizabeth Taylor in the NBC miniseries Liz, the Elizabeth Taylor Story. Since then, Sherilyn has appeared in over 100 projects. She was a series regular on the shows Dawson Creek, Gilmore Girls, Ray Donovan, Shameless, SWAT, and most recently on the TV series Shining Vale. Sherilyn has also had countless guest starring roles on shows like House, CSI, and Friends. Between the Lines episodes are written by guests who prefer to use their written voice instead of their interview voice to share their stories. As a reminder, the views expressed in any blog are the views of the author, and the purpose is to provide a safe place for the author's voice to be heard. So, what are we waiting for? Fill up your coffee, sit back, and let's get started.
Destigmatizing Mental Illness by Joshua Young. For most of my life, I've lived in the shadows of secrecy and shame, hiding a part of myself that I desperately wished I could change. I struggled silently with depression and battled the highs and lows of bipolar disorder. It wasn't just the weight of these conditions that burdened me. It was the stigma that surrounded them. In this blog post, I want to share my story and why it is so important to destigmatize mental illness, drawing from my own experiences and the broader implications it has on society. It has now been 4 decades that I've lived with depression. I can't begin to tell you the number of nights that I have cried myself to sleep, mornings of not wanting to get out of bed at all, or the number of times I honestly just wanted to end it all. But it is not just about managing my symptoms. It's also about the social stigma that surrounds it. I became an expert at wearing a mask of normalcy, hiding behind fake smiles and laughter. I never wanted to be treated differently because of my depression, so I hid it. I wanted to appear normal and go about my life without being defined by my mental health. I knew that if I opened up about my issues, people might treat me differently and perhaps be afraid of saying or doing the wrong thing to, quote, set me off. But here's the irony I've found. The fear of being treated differently led to more isolation. I became stuck in a cycle of silence, and by keeping my struggles hidden, I denied myself the support that I needed. I didn't want your pity. I just wanted understanding. I wanted to live in a world where I could openly discuss my issues without fear of judgment or alienation. Destigmatizing mental illness to me means disputing the stereotypes that exist in society. It means educating people about the reality of mental illness and pushing back against the myths that surround it. One thing that I've heard, and it drives me crazy, is that people with mental illness are violent, they're abusive or dangerous. Well, I am not any of those things. And in reality, most people with mental illness are more likely to be the victims of abuse or violence. I feel that we must share our stories because it encourages open conversations, and by talking openly about mental health, I believe we can create a safe space for other people to share their struggles, creating better understanding and even comfort. It also promotes obtaining help without fear or judgment. Stigma often deters people, as it did with me, from seeking the support that they need, leading them to suffer in silence even when treatment is available to them. Mental health challenges are a part of the human experience, and I feel that destigmatizing is a matter of life and death, as it can prevent tragedies like self-harm or suicide. It can also enhance overall well-being and can add to a healthier society by encouraging people to care for their mental well-being, promoting inclusivity, and sending a powerful message that everyone, regardless of their mental health status, deserves respect and dignity. It was during one of my darkest moments that I realized the importance of breaking the chains of silence. My secrets had become unbearable. Sleepless nights, the depressing mornings, and the suicidal thoughts had grown too frequent, and I felt completely alone. I couldn't continue like this, so I made the hard decision to seek help. It was a terrifying step, but it was also the most liberating. I started the therapy and began the process of unraveling the tangled web of emotions and thoughts and fears, these things that had ensnared me for years. In therapy, I found out that I wasn't alone. There were countless others who had experienced similar struggles and had found their way to recovery. Their stories gave me hope, and I realized that I had a choice. I could continue to hide in the shadows, or I could step into the light and share my own journey. When I began talking openly about mental illness, I could see the impact that it had on those around me. It was as if a weight had been lifted, and not just from my shoulders, but from the people I spoke to. I saw that talking about mental health was a tool for reducing stigma. I started speaking at support groups, sharing my story and raising awareness. But the crucial part was education so that I could part way with the myths and provide facts and empathy. Destigmatizing requires challenging the stereotypes and biases that remain in society. It means speaking out against discrimination and advocating for policies that support mental health care and accessibility. I am determined to continue the fight, and I believe that by sharing our stories, educating others, and advocating for change, we can create a world where mental illness is met with compassion and understanding rather than judgment and fear. Today, I am no longer hiding, and I am proud of my journey and the strength it has given me. I'm committed to being a voice for those who are still struggling and to working towards a future where no one has to hide their mental health challenges. If you are reading or listening to this, I implore you to join the fight. You can start by educating yourself about mental health and challenging any misconceptions that you yourself may hold. Be a compassionate and non-judgmental listener for those who need to share their experiences. You can also support organizations and initiatives that work towards mental health advocacy and awareness. Reach out to your elected officials and urge them to prioritize mental health care and policies that promote inclusivity and acceptance. Most importantly, if you are struggling with mental health issues, know that you are not alone. There is help available, and there are people who care about your well-being. Reach out to a therapist, counselor, support group. Your journey to healing and recovery is possible, and there is a community ready to stand with you and to help build a more compassionate and understanding world for all.
Thank you for joining us today with your coffee and conversation. We hope you've been encouraged and learned something from today's story. To learn more about today's guest, please check out our show notes for more details. Now it's time to remember to like this episode, subscribe, and turn on your notifications to ensure you do not miss future episodes. Recovery Advocate Network envisions a world where individuals with mental health challenges receive comprehensive and effective treatment without the worry of financial burdens to themselves or their families, all without the stigmas often present in society. We are proud that every individual working with RAN does so on a 100% volunteer basis. You can support the mission by making a financial donation via PayPal or Venmo, or email donate@recoveryadvocatenetwork.org if you would like to donate items for our next fundraising auction. Please visit our website at www.recoveryadvocatenetwork.org to learn more. Now, stay in the loop about upcoming events, future episodes, and more by following us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter X, TikTok, LinkedIn, and all major podcast platforms. As a reminder, the experiences and advice expressed in this episode are the host and guest's own personal stories and do not represent the opinions of any organization mentioned. RAN is passionate about opening the doors for all voices and experiences, not just those expressed in any particular podcast. If you want to share your experiences or expertise, we encourage you to be a future guest by emailing us at podcast@recoveryadvocatenetwork.org or submit a blog by emailing blog@recoveryadvocatenetwork.org. We also encourage you to comment on the episode so that we can continue to provide content that is most beneficial to the community. How do you do that? Visit our website at www.recoveryadvocatenetwork.org, and in the top right corner, click that comment button and comment. So listeners, what do you need to do? Pause what you're doing, subscribe, follow us. Please give us a like and a 5-star rating, write some meaningful comments, and most importantly, share these episodes with your friends. You never know whose heart you will touch, so please be a part of a reason someone has new hope today. If this episode was triggering to you, we encourage you to contact your support system, therapist, national and community support groups, the Global Crisis Text Line by texting 741-741, and or if in the U.S., dialing 988 to reach the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. If you're in the U.S. and need additional resources such as shelter, support group resources, transportation, food, and or a safe, confidential path out of physical or emotional domestic abuse, please call 211 or visit www.211info.org for assistance. Now, we know you are very busy, and we are grateful that you said yes to sharing time with us today. If you stuck to our 3 C's of engagement and listened to the full episode, then visit the podcast section of our website and leave the comment about the podcast, and you'll be entered to win an autographed copy of one of the books from one of our book club series, as well as a coffee and conversation coffee mug. So thanks again. Until next time, back to your coffee.